This is episode 1 of the Port Professional podcast, brought to you by PortPro. We're excited to introduce this podcast series where we will be talking about port-related industry topics, bringing on guests, discussing new technologies in the space, speaking with industry stakeholders like terminals, trucking companies, and BCOs to learn more about the current state of the international supply chain, and hopefully through all of this provide a ton of value to our listeners. My name is Toni, Careccio, and I am the Director of Marketing over here at PortPro. And here with me today is Michael Mecca, our CEO and founder. Thanks for joining me today, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Tone. I'm really excited to be here. I mean, we've been talking about doing a podcast for a very long time now, and I think it is the perfect opportunity with everything going on in the space to have one. We've put some energy into making sure this is a well-produced show, and I'm just excited to be doing this with you, and hope we can provide value to people from our perspective and the perspective of the guests that we have on. Well, hopefully one episode of many to come. So.
Yep, I'm also very excited. The two of us are here sitting in PortPro's headquarters in South Kearney, New Jersey, located just a few minutes away from Port Newark. And for those who don't know who PortPro is, we are a technology company that provides new age software to the drayage industry. Our core product is drayOS. It's a transportation management operating system used by some of the most forward-thinking, reputable drayage carriers in the United States that have anywhere between 10 and 200 trucks. Today, we are thrilled to come on and kick off our podcast with a big announcement, and that is, drum roll please, the upcoming launch of drayOS Mobile, the first of its kind mobile-based drayage operating system for owner-operators and small carriers with 1 to 10 trucks. We wanted to make this first podcast a discussion on what some of the pain points are in the industry today and why we decided to add drayOS Mobile to our suite of products. But before we get into more depth regarding the product itself, Michael, can you tell us a little bit more about the current industry problems that we are seeing today in the drayage space?
Yeah, I definitely can, and I'll try to.
But we don't have all day.
We don't have all day. We don't have all day, but we'll definitely try to keep it short and concise. I think we have these conversations all the time internally here about what we're trying to solve for, and I think in Dray right now there's a ton of variables that drayage carriers cannot control for, whether it's per diem demurrage that are out of their control, equipment control, equipment shortages, driver shortages, inability to recruit drivers, uncooperative customers. There's tons of variables right now that are outside of trucking companies' controls. And then you take all these aspects of the business that you can't control, you merge them with things that you kind of can control that are operational burdens that are still difficult to manage, and it makes running a drayage company right now one of the most difficult companies to run in the country. I say it all the time. I think being a drayage carrier right now is a little bit like being a professional gambler. There's a lot of money to be made, but there's also tons and tons of risk. And I think that what happened, COVID happens. You go into Chinese New Year, and then you have COVID hit March 2020, and things go dead for March, April, May, June, July. Start to pick back up. August really hit things in September, October, and all these factories reopened up. There was a massive backlog of everything, all these products that were manufactured that ports closed down, product couldn't come through, and now there was this big backlog of everything coming to the United States, and the supply and demand got all out of whack. I don't see it changing anytime soon. I think what happened on top of that backlog, additionally, the American consumer really understood now that, hey, well, number one, the government provided stimulus checks to people. and they used those stimulus checks to buy products. People weren't going out and consuming services anymore. They were just buying products for their home, for their family and friends. And
now, as a result, the ports are out of control and overly congested.
Yeah, I think that this it's kind of become, it's the perfect storm a little bit with the state of everything. I think that there are a lot of different nodes on this network, a lot of different parties that are involved that are required to operate efficiently, especially when the demand is so high for product, that need to operate efficiently in order to have a smooth transition of possession of product, transition of product from offshore to onshore to warehouse distribution to the customer's hand. I think that there's tons of different parties that take control of that cargo over its lifespan, and right now none of those parties are really communicating properly, and
all these
at the core of it.
And all these fines are just completely out of everyone's control. I know that in the first 10 or 11 months in 2020, there was over 150 million paid in demurrage per diem charges in Southern California and ports in New Jersey, New York ports alone. And I think there's been a lot of complaints to the Federal Maritime Commission, and just nothing has been done about it. So between the fines and the port congestion and the equipment shortages and the capacity shortages, there are a whirlwind of issues going on in the industry today. So to that point, I'd love to get into the operations and just the structure of the trucking companies a little bit, the drayage carriers, because these are the individuals and the companies that are firsthand seeing the issues in the ports on a day-to-day basis, right? They're the ones driving in and out of the ports. So can you talk to us a little bit about those trucking companies, maybe some of their operational burdens, and just their models? I know some of them have owner-operators that work under their authority. Some of them have company drivers. We can get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that drayage carriers, as I was touching on slightly before, are in a really weird spot. For the first time, I would say in definitely as long as I've been alive, probably since trucking was deregulated back in the 70s. The supply and demand for capacity is out of whack, and the need for more trucks on the road and more equipment to go pick up goods and distribute them is at an all-time high. And with that comes a lot of added pressure, and a lot of these variables that we discussed before come into play even more so, and make running a business really difficult right now. Trucking companies in the dray space are traditionally structured in one of three ways. They're structured way one, where they have company drivers, where they're they pay these company drivers either hourly wages, they pay them by the move, or maybe a combination of by the hour, by the move, by the mile.
But as W-2 employees.
As W-2s, right? So you have that aspect of it. Number two is you have hybrid companies. So you have these companies that have decided to go down the route of having some drivers that are company drivers, and then having other owner-operators. And then you have companies that are solely working with owner-operators. And on the owner-operator side, we kind of, at PortPro, we kind of like to split it up into two different categories of owner-ops. We have owner-ops that lease on to trucking companies. What that means is, I own my own, if I'm an owner-op, I own my own truck. I don't have, cargo liability insurance. What I do is I go and I lease on underneath a trucking company. I have my own bobtail insurance, and I move work for them with my own equipment. I get paid a premium for providing my equipment to that trucking company, essentially, and I get paid for doing work for them. I have their logo on the side of my truck. I run under their authority. And then we have other owner ops that are essentially trucking companies. They are trucking companies, and they have their own authority, and they work with trucking companies as well, but instead of really in a more of a driver company relationship, I would say it's more of like a trucker broker style relationship. And there's trucking companies that run their entire business with that model of almost like a trucking company / brokerage type model.
Now, how do you foresee, maybe you can talk to our listeners a little bit about the AB5 legislation and how that impacts the current model of trucking companies, specifically owner-operators working under another carrier's authority?
Yeah, so you have AB5. That's, what AB5 is just for those that don't know, is California regulation where pretty much you're saying, hey, these freelancers in all sectors in some cases are being misclassified. We need to, the government's looking like as per usual, looking to crack down on things they should probably stay out of. They're going in and trying to say, okay, these, if a driver at a company, an owner-op meets these criterias, they're not an independent contractor, they're a W-2. And there's injunctions going on with that right now, and it's still in the courts, but it's looming over the space. And if that, and there's kind of begun to be a transition where companies are beginning to think about how they're going to manage their business if that would ever to pass. And actually be enacted, or has passed or be enacted. I think that you see companies kind of splitting or drivers splitting two different ways right now. You have guys that are okay, or companies that are okay moving drivers to be W-2 and maybe paying them a premium and figuring out some sort of agreement with them. And then you have guys who
decide to take the entrepreneurial road and end up getting their own MC number and operating their own independent company, right? So my question is, for those that take that route, how difficult is that? Going from leasing on under the authority of another company to transitioning to starting your own company?
I think it's extremely difficult. I think starting and running a business is one of the hardest things that a human being can do. And then you take starting your own business, all those crazy variables that we talked about before, being in the busiest time ever, and you bundle all that up, and then you have to drive and deal with the stresses of going into ports, sitting there all day or all night, and getting your container and making your delivery or bringing it to a yard. I mean,
source new work because you're no longer working under that carrier.
I mean, starting a company in any sector is difficult. Starting a trucking company today is difficult for the reasons of how am I going to operate my business, and it's honestly, Toni, it's nothing like I've seen before, and I don't really think that. I think that like you were touching on, I think that these drivers that have their own truck, decides to have their own authority, they're used to previously just at the end of each week just going to their company and getting a check for the work that they did this week. It's not going to be like that anymore for the companies or for the guys who decide to start their own company, because at the end of the day, they need to figure out, okay, how am I going to get work? How am I going to invoice the customer, who most of the time will be a trucking company as they start out? How am I going to collect? How am I going to pay my bills to keep my company going, and hopefully expand and grow into from one truck to 5 to 20 to 100, depending on someone's appetite. So, yeah.
Now I'm very sensitive in saying that we are planning on launching another mobile application, right? Because there's a lot of app fatigue in the trucking world today, but I think it's important to address how all of these different applications that are currently on the market today, how they are and how they aren't solving for a lot of these challenges that we've discussed, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
you have Next, you have Cargomatic, Transfix, Convoy, Uber, Dray Alliance, right? There's a ton of apps.
Yeah, I think that digital freight brokerage apps aren't a bad thing for companies. I really don't. I think that it provides trucking companies with access to work in an easy way, specifically in the Dray space when we talk about, a Dray Alliance, a Next, and to some extent like a Cargomatic and a LoadSmart on the East Coast. I think that a guy with his own truck
or girl
with his or her own truck, getting their own authority, finding a way to now having the burden of having to go and source their own work. I think getting work from a Dray Alliance app or from a Cargomatic app or from a Next Trucking app isn't a bad thing. I think it's a good starting place, and I think those apps have their value, and some of the companies operate them well and treat the drivers they work with good, and it is that's not a bad avenue to go down, and those companies are executing well and providing value to owner ops, in the sector that they've chose to go down. So I think that's definitely a decent place to start for owner ops. I would
consider them a value-added tool.
Yeah, they're a customer, right? They're a customer who's made it easy for their trucking companies to work with them.
Right.
That's what it is, and that's great. And they provide good visibility to their own customers. But from the perspective of the Dray carrier, especially the small size Dray carrier that a lot of these companies work with, they view them as a customer who gives them low barrier to entry access to work, and an easy way of getting paid quick and invoicing and doing everything electronically.
With that customer.
Yeah, with that customer, meaning, hey, I'm Dray Alliance. I have this great app, and I distribute this app, and if you want to receive work from me, you can download this app and have access to this work, and you'll distribute whatever documents I need from you back, and I'll pay you through the app.
But if you want to get work from Next, you have to download Next app.
Sure, yeah, because at the end of the day, the apps that in the drayage space, the digital freight brokerage apps are marketplaces built around the customer base of that specific broker. So, hey, I'm Dray Alliance. If you download Dray Alliance's app, you're receiving loads from Dray Alliance, and that's what it is.
Now, can you talk a little bit about, PortPro first and foremost, right? We're not a brokerage, right? We're purely a software company, but I think now it's a good time to get a little bit more into drayOS Mobile, the new product in our suite of apps, and tell our listeners a little bit more about what the app does, what are some of its core features, and some of the benefits like the accessibility and all that stuff.
Yeah, honestly, Tone, I think from our side and leading off our podcast with talking about a product that we're launching and touching on the pain points in the industry, I think it's definitely a bold move, right? I think that the way that we're so this is essentially what's happened here. PortPro as a company, we've been in this space now for, we've been live for, let's say, 18 months. And we've been building our core product for, let's say, the last 2 years. And my experience in the Dray extends in the Dray space extends far beyond that. But just solely focusing on software in the Dray space, we've really been in the mud, in the ground with companies, working hand in hand with drivers for the last 2 years, feedback, iteration. And I think what we've discovered is that we've been able to provide really good software solution for. I think we are the thought leader. We are the company that's leading the wave of operational software in the drayage space. We are the innovator in the space right now, and we're going to continue to push the envelope. And we're a company that is really focused on our products, right? But we really service right now companies that have access to our platform from a laptop, a desktop, a tablet, and it's
accessible by mobile devices.
Yeah, but it's not really good by mobile, honestly, right? I mean, like our app for our drivers is excellent, meaning our company drivers or owner operators that use it to communicate with trucking companies, it's excellent. It's top of the line app. But accessing the TMS functionality, the actual operational functionality on a web browser on a phone, leaves a lot to be it leaves a lot to be desired, and we've really taken a lot of feedback from our customers on that because we're looking to push the envelope forward. And what we've decided to do was we said, okay, we're in 2021. I should be able to run my business on the go as much and provide as much. We should be able to provide as much functionality to our customer base as possible on the go. And a great way to start approaching that is saying, okay, let's build this around companies that are always on the go, that the core of their roots is on the go. They don't have the time to be in front of a computer either early in the morning or late at night. So we say, okay, we have this owner-operator population that right now really doesn't have a software solution that's targeting them. We have the digital freight brokerage option for the owner-operator, but again, that's siloed by working with one specific customer. There's nothing that, as an owner-operator, even like a small trucking company, 2, 3, 4, 5 trucks, and I'm the owner and I'm driving and I'm managing, that I can really do on the go. So what we decided to do is we decided to build an app, drayOS Mobile, take all the amazing functionality from our core drayOS product, which is the web-based, TMS.
That these larger carriers are able to use to better manage and operate their business.
Right. And thanks for that.
and put it in the palm of the owner-operator's hands.
And that's it. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to distribute the app out to owner-ops that want to run their business. They're business people, right? This is not an app for any owner-op that doesn't take what they do very seriously and just looking for a way to go home at night. This is for the small carrier, the owner-op that really cares a lot and views themselves as a businessman or a businesswoman and wants to grow their business. So what we decided to do is put all this functionality into an amazing, easy-to-use app where now, as an owner-op, I can create my own loads from an app, check availability and last free day, invoice my customers, provide visibility and tracking, GPS tracking to my customers. I can
dispatch loads.
Yeah, I can dispatch loads to myself or out to the trucks that I'm running with, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other trucks. All from the palm of your hand. I can pay you can pay yourself, pay drivers, offer a mechanism in which your customer can pay you, handle your safety, repair and maintenance, view your revenue, analytics, reporting, that type of stuff. Everything that the core drayOS functionality offers, this app will also offer, and it's like I said, it's really a first of its kind solution where an operating system in the trucking space, not only in the dray space, in the trucking space as a whole, you'll really be able to run your business from your phone. The first of its kind.
And these carriers will be able to manage their relationships or their business, not just with other trucking companies, but their customers, whether they're trucking companies or brokers or forwarders or BCOs, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, this solution is not an app like a digital freight broker app. This is a solution. This is operating software for any size trucking company. Now, for a small owner-op, an owner-op or a small carrier where it's just the same great functionality of drayOS, except they're going to have the ability of doing it from anywhere and not having to remote into a tablet or go into a tablet or a laptop for it. And on top of that, right, so we have a couple other key benefits to this app that like the PortPro network. What we're doing is we're going out, we're building up this network, and we're going to be providing other value adds like we do to our trucking companies to these owner ops through drayOS Mobile, small carriers, is fuel programs where they'll be able to have access to discounts on fuel, tire programs, repair, roadside assistance, those type of options
outside of the operational benefits.
the operational benefits of the software. By opting in and using this platform, we're going to be able to provide you with discounted options to a bunch of partners that we're working with to give you access to things that discounts that big companies have access to because they have numbers, and it's difficult to have those discounts when you're just running one or two trucks. So we're also going to be providing that as a value service, and also we're
you're getting access to our network.
Yeah, on top of it, before we even get into that, I mean, equipment exchanging and the street turn aspect of it, and even we're going to be getting into in the future, getting into the ability to offer out space to store, right? So I think that on top of the drayOS platform itself and the value in the software through the app, the value in the add-on services that we'll provide, we're really looking to be the backbone infrastructure support network for these companies. On top of that, and I think this is like a really really like first of its kind, really innovative step that we're taking, is this is going to be like the beginnings of the PortPro like network, PortPro ecosystem that we've been talking about building for like almost 2 years now, or over 2 years now. I spoke at Journal of Commerce in 2019 in Newark, and I spoke on a panel, and it was about port productivity, and I kept harping on the fact that I think a lot of companies are missing the need for the improved operations within the capacity of the trucking companies first. So we've doubled, tripled down on that, and now we have the beginnings of creating this self-sustaining ecosystem of different parties that are going to be able to work together optionally. So what does that mean?
On a native software.
Yeah, on a single platform. And what does that mean? That means, hey, we have carriers that use drayOS. We will now have owner ops that will also be using drayOS from our mobile version. Before we spoke about the business model where there's trucking companies that use owner ops to run their business, and whether they're leased on or whether they use them in like the brokerage model. So now owner ops will be able to download this app, manage their own business, and the trucking companies within the drayOS network will be able to tender loads and vet out owner operators and vice versa. So what does that mean? It's the beginning of a platform where companies will be able to operate independently, run their businesses the same way they're doing now, and in addition to that, be able to connect to each other
and communicate better.
Yeah, communicate better. Allocate overflow work to owner ops or broker out work to owner ops, whatever the arrangements are, all on a native platform. And from the owner ops side, now you don't just have access to a singular customer. If you're starting out, you'd have access to this big network of trucking companies who are all going to be operating on the same software as you, the same way that you'd be able to go out and get work from a Dray Alliance or a Next and only download an app to have singular work from that company. We're trying to create grander exposure where it's saying, okay, you're going to download an app, PortPro, and this is your app. Right? This is your app where you're downloading it and you're running your business from it. And if you choose to open yourself up to work that's on the system that these different trucking companies will be able to offer out to, you have the ability of doing that. If you want to just stay inside of your lane and don't have to interact, you don't have to interact with anything. It's giving people the ability to make their own decisions and giving them software that allows them to run their business in an easier way. That's what our play is. That's all we're looking to do. It's as simple as that. So now we have drayOS, we have drayOS Mobile. These drayOS and drayOS Mobile, right? They're the same product. They're different size users, right? But these companies will now be able to communicate and work together on a native platform, be able to interact and transact and do business with each other.
And just to wrap up here, drayOS Mobile, what's the plans on?
drayOS, we're wrapping up. We're just getting started. No,
I know you can go all day, but in regards to where we're planning on launching, when we're launching.
Yeah, so this drayOS Mobile will be available in the LA Long Beach ports to start. We're currently in a beta with a select group of owner operators, and we're going to be continuing to expand out that beta over the course of this summer, and bring on more and more owner operators. We're kind of taking the model of almost like a clubhouse, where it's like, okay, we're doing.
It's got exclusivity to it, but let's not give away all our secret sauce.
No.
here.
No. But I think, let me tell you, I think that that's an important factor. So that's how we're going to be approaching it. We're not in we want to do things the right way the first time, take feedback from this really, the way that we're doing things. We do things in a patient, in an organic way. And we want to expand out our beta so that we continue to add on more and more owner ops in our drayOS mobile side, and have the product work as it's intended to work. And we want to make, as I said to you before, we want to make sure that, what I would say is this: I would rather have the network. I'd rather have the companies on the software use the software as it was intended to be used, and get a lot of value out of it. This is not a money-making grab. This is nothing like that. All this is us trying to provide software out to this network to provide value to it. We want to take our beta and continue to grow it and keep it exclusive for as long as we can, because one thing we don't want to oversaturate the PortPro network. And I think that being a PortPro carrier is something that the companies we work with are proud of. And I think that owner ops will also feel that pride and see how hard we work for them. And so we're in beta now. It's going to continue. We're going to continue to grow it. And we just plug along and we provide value, and that's it. I think that by the end of, I would say it'll be in Jersey, in the coming months as well, and
to be continued.
And to be continued. So I'll leave a little cliffhanger.
I think
because I'm getting the old hook.
I think this was a great first episode, and we're really looking forward to continuing on with this series. We'll keep everyone posted on future guests and timeline of future releases.
Yeah. So to talk about just the podcast to finish up here, I think we're shooting to do this. We're going to do this to start, 2 times per month, and I think we're going to try to have a guest on either remotely or in person each time, and discuss a different topic at a lot of the points we discussed today, and see where it goes. But
and you can reach out to us with any specific topics you guys are looking to learn more about, or certain people you'd like to listen to. We can do our best.
Sure. Yeah. And
thanks for listening.
Toni, you don't have any sign off?
No, I gotta come up with some sort of stay classy, San Diego.
No. All right.
Just kidding.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will definitely see you next time.
See ya.